Book 50 of 2019 was Becoming by Michelle Obama. I really enjoy reading this book and kind of getting to know Michelle Obama a little bit more. I have followed kind of like some of her talks that she's given to like educational institutions and things like that, and always kind of admired the way that she talks and what the content is of what she talks about, and kind of like, you know, agree with what she talks about. I didn't really know much about American politics until like this last year, because I've been reading a lot of stuff and following a lot of things on like social media platforms, but from reading or listening to this audiobook, it kind of made me align myself politically with Democrats, and I can kind of see the Obamas as kind of like a flag for that, and kind of agree with the kind of drive for social justice. Like, I think it's really admirable what they did for America and how they changed it for as long as they did. I think it's really unfortunate that Americans had such a negative perception of Michelle Obama initially and throughout her time as First Lady, because they were racist and because they judged her on like what she wore and stuff like that, that is kind of like, you know, not necessary. It's almost like First Ladies were perceived as being like trophies on the arm of the president, and couldn't be strong and definitely couldn't be black and couldn't be outspoken and assertive. And because she was so educated and you know, able to kind of bring about change and be influential to the people that she spoke to, Americans don't like her. And that's really unfortunate, particularly as well now when you look at the response to the First Lady at the minute, so Melania Trump. Like, everyone loves her, and it's kind of like, why do people love her? Like, she is literally the trophy of Donald Trump, and she's not educated, and she became famous because she was a model and took her clothes off. Like, if I was to respect either of them, I would respect Michelle Obama far more than Melania Trump. Like, and the fact that she's married to a man who's like that, and she doesn't see a problem with that. Like, but anyway, I'm not going to get into that. In terms of this book, it's nice because Michelle Obama takes you through her life as a child, her childhood, how she was when she was growing up. It kind of goes into kind of like how she met Barack, and then it kind of talks about like before the presidential kind of election, and then obviously life as being the First Lady and president. So it kind of takes you through that. It's a really interesting insight into her life and kind of how she grew up and why she is the way she is. And it kind of really endears you to her as a person. I really respect her after reading it. She highlights the struggle of being black and being poor and being a woman, and kind of how education is really important because it helps you to rise against systemic racism. It's interesting how the way she describes it, her community at the time, if you spoke in an educated way, they would say, you know, why are you talking like a white girl? Like, they didn't kind of see black people able to talk in an educated way, which I think is really, really unfortunate. That not only were they getting kind of racism from people against the race, but within the race as well. So it's interesting that how it comes, like, you know, both ways, and that she as a child had to kind of like fight against that. She comes across as being very lucky because she's had loads of influential people in her life that have helped her shape into the person that she is. So, for example, her older brother Craig was loved by everyone, so, you know, she was always around people that liked her, that because of her ties to her brother, and you know, school was easier for her, and like, she almost followed his educational path, so she didn't have to think for anything for herself, and she was very close to him and the rest of the family. So, you know, she had a very kind of idyllic childhood in that sense, and she had a lot of kind of adult mentors in her community to help her gain a kind of confidence in herself and become quite like what was the word that I used in my review? You know, to take confident ownership of herself. Like, we're not all that lucky to kind of come through like our childhood unscathed, and to feel confident and to feel like, you know, that we're not kind of insecure about things. But I feel like all the support that she got allowed her to kind of fight against the you know, the racism and things, and just things like her mum pulling her out of a class because the teacher wasn't teaching her well enough and putting her into a different class, and she fought for that. Like, that's really kind of lucky to have somebody like that in your life that can understand what's going on and be able to act and do something about it, because we don't all have that kind of upbringing. So I think because she's had like strong individuals in her life, that's allowed her to become like that also, which is a very useful tool for her when she's kind of got older. You know, she went through law school, and I think that's obviously given her lots of skills as well in terms of how to present herself and how to argue. So I'm watching at the minute How to Get Away with Murder, and you know, being a lawyer gives you a lot of good skills in terms of how to represent yourself, so it's quite interesting. But essentially it's her strong personality. Like, she's driven, she wants to achieve, she loves learning, and so, and I really identified with it because a lot of personality traits that she has I feel like I resonate with. Not all of them obviously, but you know, her desire to learn and her kind of like thirst for knowledge and being driven and stuff, and kind of being blinkered by achievement. Like, she mentions like that she was so driven to achieve that she became a lawyer, and it was only when she'd become a lawyer that she realised that she hated being a lawyer, and that she was like, why did I become a lawyer? But it's because she was on that path to achieve, and you don't stop, you just keep going until you get it, and then at the end you're like, oh crap. Like, and I've done that as well. Like, I went on the path of becoming a teacher, and then I'm a teacher, I'm like, oh crap, like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And you know, my instincts told me early on, and I ignored them, and I'm exactly the same as her in that sense. And so it was really interesting to kind of like hear about her life and how it got her to where she was, and it was kind of like a nice like romantic love story, like how she met Barack and how she wasn't interested in him at all. He made a really bad first impression on her, but her description of him and how like amazed she was by him as a person. The way she describes him, he sounds amazing as a person. He sounds absolutely great, and I'm like jealous that she's met somebody that's like that, because there ain't no guys like that around me. So yeah, it was kind of like really interesting to see how they were like friends for a long time, and they got on really well, and it just kind of naturally progressed into a relationship. I think it's rare these days to kind of have a relationship like that, because everyone's on apps and stuff, and it's kind of, you don't naturally develop that kind of love for somebody over time. That's quite romantic, isn't it? And she was like I don't want to date him or anything. It's like, that's exactly what I'm like. So I kind of resonated with that as well. I think actually, like, I'm sure I googled her and she's got the same Myers-Briggs personality as me, but I can see it like in the way that she is, like, you know, very similar in that way. So I think that's probably why I like the book as well. Maybe you won't like it as much if you don't resonate with her as much, I don't know. And then it kind of talks about how she didn't want to be in politics. She had no interest in politics. She'd watched how it had kind of like interfered with the life of one of her friends. She had no interest, but then she watched Barack Obama and how motivated he was by social justice, and she went to one of the conversations that he had with the community, and she was like, this is kind of, you know, good for him, this is his place kind of thing, and she supported him, made a lot of self-sacrifices for it. And then obviously he wanted to run for president, she didn't want him to run. I just thought it was really interesting because she wasn't motivated, and neither was he, to become famous or, you know, have power or whatever. They were genuinely wanting to help the country, and I think like that's amazing that people like that can get into power like that, because these days people that get into power, they're there for themselves, they're not there for anybody else. And I think, like, you know, some people say they're going to do a lot of things and they don't, and I think, like, obviously I don't know enough about American politics to kind of, you know, say whether or not they were successful in what they did, but they would have, you know, like any government, they get blocked by other people and stuff anyway in terms of trying to make change and stuff. But I just thought it was really great, you know, like how like in the Senate at the minute there's what's she called, Alexandra Cortez or whatever. I absolutely love her because I watched the Netflix documentary on her rise to, you know, the Senate and stuff, and she was backed by a grassroots company that tries to get people into the Senate that represent working people and stuff, and not, you know, career politicians. And I love that. I love the fact that there's someone from the Bronx who was working class, you know, working as a waitress. I know that was kind of probably staged a little bit, but, you know, because she has, I've looked at her wiki page and she has got like experience in politics already, but the way that it is, and it's kind of like to see her holding her own, like she is good at talking, like she's really good at presenting to people. Like I hope she does really well in politics, because, you know, that's kind of like the future right there, and she's been very kind of inspirational to young women to be assertive and to say what you believe in and to argue for it, and to not let people railroad you, to not let, you know, men tell you that you shouldn't be in the Senate. Like so you know, I think that's kind of great, and the Obamas are kind of like that as well. You know, the first black president, like, you know, the fact that, you know, he didn't get there because he was black, he got there because he was a great person, and because he was good at politics, and he was good at like actioning for social justice, and the fact that he broke that barrier shows how good he was. Like, you know, the way Michelle Obama describes him, he's very intelligent, you know, he's always reading books, and you know, he knows what he's talking about, and, you know, I completely respect them both for the way that she portrays it in this kind of book. But what I did find it was really interesting was that Michelle Obama seems to just like walk into jobs. Like she just, you know, she knows somebody who can give her a job, and that nepotism is kind of like, I'm really jealous of it. But she's obviously worked for it, in the fact that she's become, you know, friends with people, and then years later they've ended up in situations where they can offer her an interview, and she get a foot in the door to kind of, and then she uses a lot of skills to kind of say like, this is the kind of job I want or whatever, and she gets it. She seems to be really good at everything she does, so I obviously understand this is from her perspective, but she doesn't come across as a person that would over exaggerate and over, you know, inflate her kind of way that her life is. And there's obviously things that are missing there. I think it was quite a shame that her children have had to grow up like in that kind of restricted upbringing, because everyone's got to kind of like protect them and stuff, and they can't go out and do whatever they want. And she talks about like trying to escape out of the White House to like look at the fireworks outside or something like that, or look at a parade outside, because they wouldn't let them go out. They can't even open a window. She can't go outside on the terrace because the people have to kind of like protect them and stuff. And I thought it was really, really sad that they're kind of like a prisoner in there. And they're doing it for everybody else. They've kind of sacrificed that part of their life for everybody else that I don't think people kind of give them kind of credit for. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I was thinking I had something else to say then and I've forgotten what it was. Never mind. But yeah, it was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I'd be quite interested actually to read Obama's books, because she does actually mention it in this book, because she says like, you know, in order to make money, he has to write a book, so he has to go away and write a book. So I'll be quite interested to like read or like what he had to say. That's another thing that reminds me. In her book, she said that they paid for all the furniture inside the White House and redecorating and things like that. Like they didn't take the money from the state, which I thought was really kind of noble, particularly with the expenditure expose that's happened like in Britain, with all the politicians like claiming expenses for things that are absolutely ridiculous. And you know how like I think Boris Johnson at the minute is doing it, like it's absolutely disgusting really, isn't it, given how much they get paid anyway. You'd think they'd buy their own stuff, but anyway, if they can get free money they will do, won't they? Which is why I really respect people like Jeremy Corbyn for taking public transport. Like I think, like, I mean, he's probably doing it just for, you know, people to have that kind of view of him, but you know, he is still doing it, so he deserves to have that view of him really. But yeah, I'm going on to politics rant and whatever. Read the book, it's really good.